All right, 178. Yeah, ask me about niacin later. The news that we're sitting here, it's Thursday night, and about half an hour after Trump announced that he and Melania have tested positive for the COVID, um, which is, at least in my mind, part of a week of not very good news for the president's election chances. Lance?
Well, I'm not worried about it particularly. I think that he's going to take medication and he'll be okay. And I actually think uh, look, if he dies, it's unspeakable tragedy. But if he uses a medication and he lives, I think it'll be a source of great uh, relief and inspiration to the American people that if the commander in chief at 74 and obese can get this and beat it with the medication we have, that'd be the best thing to happen for the country because they would see that they don't have as much to fear perhaps as they thought.
Well, I don't know. We got at least 212,000 confirmed U.S. dead. So it's killing some, but 80% of the people who die in the U.S. from COVID are age 65 or older. So he's definitely, in a risk group, but you'd
Right.
expect him to have the best, medical resources available. Um,
Yeah, I mean, he will have his pick of medications, and he'll tell the country what he's using, most likely. As and and if he, for example, announces that a specific medication is what helped him, then people will start taking that, and they'll be less afraid. Um, I don't know how it will affect the debates. I hope that they move to remote like we're doing. I don't know why that couldn't happen. And that's all I have to say about it.
all right, so I've just been on Twitter a few minutes since the announcement was made, and already people are, talking about conspiracy theories like, oh, this is just him trying to get out of further debates, and I don't believe any of that. Um,
Okay.
um, I we I can tell you that his debate performance did not give him a bump, did not increase his his polling numbers.
How would you
Maybe,
know that?
because I look at polling numbers fucking like 5 times a day or more.
No, I looked at polling numbers too, and I don't know how they would judge that so quickly.
Well, because I mean, some of these things, because a lot of them are running daily. Now, I'll give you this: a lot of the polls I look at average across like 5 days or 3 days. Um,
Yeah, that's what I mean.
but some of those polls, 2 of those 5 days are post debate. So we're not seeing a. Now, you're right. It may take another few days to see the full effect of the debates, but you know, all the aggregate, on all the aggregators I look at, there's no abrupt move up or down. Though the moves I've seen are, he went from having 22% on 538. He went from having a 22% chance of being elected to a 20% chance. So a slight narrowing. Um, if you look at, I think Fox News called it a draw. Uh, the other news sources I've looked at said that his super interrupty manner, um, didn't win him points with anybody but his base. Um,
Well, I have something to say about that, which isn't being said much. It was actually Mark Levin that pointed this out, so I can't take credit for it. Um, there was a point where, in the very beginning of the debate, where Biden interrupted Trump, and that was the first interruption. They interrupted him twice. And I thought that that was the free discussion period. So I was not clear on the rules, but it turns out if you watch it again, the first person to interrupt was Biden, and that was during Trump's first rebuttal. And after that, Trump just said, "Well, to hell with this. I'm not going to end up like Paul Ryan, who basically got his face stamped in by Biden in 2012." In 2012, for those of you that don't remember, Paul Ryan was this very courtly, diplomatic, sort of Marquis of Queensberry rules kind of guy. And so he was debating with Biden, and Biden interrupted him like 80 times. They counted. It was Mark Levin counted. It was 80 times, and I remember that debate. And Biden just showed him no respect whatsoever and just stamped all over him and laughed and interrupted him. And Paul Ryan looked like a little schoolboy that had just had his uh, ass kicked. And so, sure enough, I went back to the original debate myself of 2 nights ago. And yep, Biden is the one that interrupted Trump first. And then Trump just said, "Well, to hell with this. I'm not going to end up like Paul Ryan," and just turned it into a big argument, a big brawl. And the other thing that I found was interrupting is bad, but Biden resorted to name calling.
He called him a
And
clown and he told him to shut up, and yeah,
yeah, a variety. That wasn't it at all. He said a few other things that were just kind of like schoolboy level. So I don't base my reaction to the debate on the uh, the courtly manners of the debaters, and a lot of people do, and I think you're going to be disappointed if you do that. This is not Harvard, it's not Oxford. What it is it's two very aggressive guys, and so I limited myself to what was actually said to evaluate how it went. And of course, I think Trump was right about everything, and that Biden is it solidified to me that Biden is more dangerous than I thought before, and I already think Biden is dangerous to the country. Um, Specifically, and then I'll stop. Um, he wouldn't answer whether he would pack the court, the Supreme Court, with extra Democrat judges. And because he wouldn't answer, that just means, yeah, that's what he's going to do, which I've never had an election in my lifetime where one candidate is planning on altering our form of government. Because if he packs the court with extra justices so that the Supreme Court, so the Democrats will get an advantage, that's basically the end of the Supreme Court. It'll just become a like an arm of the legislature.
that's a reasonable argument. But Biden has at other times said that he doesn't want to pack the court. Um, but I mean, that can change depending on what happens in the next few weeks. I, I think you're giving Trump too much credit that he was going to be, less interrupty, but then Biden interrupted, and that somehow unleashed the very interruptiness of Trump. Um, and also, Trump's been getting a lot of coverage about when asked to denounce far right groups and white supremacist groups like the Proud Boys. He said the Proud Boys should stand back and stand by. Um, and I'm not sure. I mean, when we argue, Um, I've ended up saying some things that I don't mean, like just to try to get out of an argument or try to get some advantage. I said I don't care about, bathrooms for trans people, which isn't true. I just was trying to get to more. Anyway, I mean, I'd hate to be, held to 100% of the things I've said on this show. Not that anybody's holding me to fucking anything, since I'm just some schmuck. Um, so, you could give Trump a little bit of leeway for just having misspoken, but then I think it took him close to 48 hours to denounce far right groups. I think he has at this point, but it took him a long time to do it. Um, is that a big deal? I don't know. I mean, because he said a bunch of stuff. If you look at his history, he's both denounced, far right and white supremacist groups, excuse me, um, though my side would say that those denouncements or disavowals have sounded insincere. And he's also said stuff that has been widely understood to mean that, he hasn't denounced them. And at this point, it's more about how it plays than, what's in his fucking heart besides COVID.
All right. So, having just like the last few minutes before we turned this on, I was watching the debate again, and Trump was very quiet and respectful of Biden's first one or two replies, and only interrupted after Biden started interrupting him. So he was clearly waiting to see if Biden would do that. And if you watch it yourself again, you can see in the first 8 minutes of the debate who interrupted first. It's very subtle. I mean, Biden has a sort of a quiet, weak voice because he's old, but you can hear him jumping in. Um, and you can see that Trump was he was really contained. He was very, he was like you and I when we're really trying not to interrupt each other. I could see what was going through his mind. He was fine. So I don't accept that. The other thing is that I think the moderator is really a rat uh, because for him to ask Trump whether he denounces white supremacists is like me saying, "When did you stop beating your wife?" I mean, it was not his place to insinuate that Trump is a racist, and now let's see you deny it. It was the place of Biden if Biden wanted to be a rat himself, but just calling Trump a racist and saying, "Here's a test. Will you denounce white supremacy?" Uh, it's an outrageous, dirty tactic of all Democrats. I don't know if you guys think it works. Maybe you can convince some dumb people to vote for you because you call someone else a racist. But one of the commentators I listened to was saying that
Which
um,
commentator?
I don't remember was saying that Biden actually, I think it was Senator Cruz, Ted Cruz. He actually said that um, Biden had spoken at the funeral of a former Grand Wizard of the Ku Klux Klan.
Who, Strom Thurmond or somebody else?
No, it was one of those. I think it was the guy that keeps having statues built to himself. He died.
Yeah, it was some big
Byrd. No, it was
yeah, Robert
Representative
Byrd.
Byrd.
Okay, so yeah,
Robert
because
Byrd. Yeah,
so
yeah,
back in the bad old days or worse old days, if you're, the Biden worked with Byrd, who was a reformed Klan guy and a reformed, I guess, segregationist. So
yeah.
yeah, Biden has ill-advisedly talked about how he was cordial with Byrd. Um, so yeah, but I don't know. I just think at this point, with 32 days to go, it's how all this stuff plays. And you're listening to people who are still in the tank for Trump, like Ted Cruz, and reflective of, I don't know, about 40% of the electorate, and then 60% of the electorate, or 55 or 50, whatever you want, um, has what people are calling Trump fatigue, which is people, are kind of sick of this shit. We had other
The-
stuff going on before we had the debate, and then um, Melania's ex-best friend was on TV tonight with a tape um, of Melania bitching about Christmas decorations. I don't know. There's just a lot of shit going on, and the polling numbers. I mean, you can say the polls get things wrong, but they don't get things this wrong. Trump's numbers are significantly worse, or he trails Biden by a much larger margin than he ever trailed Hillary. Um,
well, look, it's possible that um, you see a trend and it's not going to reverse and Biden will win. The only thing I can say is that Rasmussen uh, is the one that I look at because it was correct on the 2016 campaign when a lot of the others weren't. And he went from 7 down 2 days ago to 2 down. So obviously 5 points up, but it's still down by two. It's not nothing to be confident about. So as far as winning the debate goes, uh, I still think there's more to play out on that because, for example, there was a Telemundo poll you probably heard of. That's the
I've heard of
Hispanic.
Telemundo. I haven't seen their poll.
Well, they did a poll and they found that Trump completely dominated in that poll, and it corresponds to an improving uh, rate that Trump is getting with Hispanics. Uh, he's doing better than he did against Hillary. So I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. But do we have anything else?
Well, yeah, we got a couple things, but at the risk of boring people with numbers, Trump is actually pulling higher numbers at this point um, than he did 4 years ago because there are fewer undecided voters. Um, 4 years ago, if you added up Hillary's numbers and Trump's numbers, they only added up to the low 80s, and with about 20% undecided. Now it's only about 8% undecided, with Biden pulling 50%, Trump pulling around 42. So he's actually 2 points higher, but it's just because that there are many fewer undecided voters, and about 2% of the votes are already in because there is early voting in about 16 states. So I'm doing the same shit I did 4 years ago, which is hoping the lead holds while enough votes roll in, before the final push. Um, Now, you asked me about niacin. I guess we can talk about that for a quick second.
We
I've been
we
taking
could.
niacin just about every day for, I don't know, 15 years.
Well, what's the dosage?
Just whatever is standard from a vitamin company.
All right.
You
Well,
know,
a
it's just,
vitamin company, you in a pill, it's usually about 100 milligrams.
okay, if that I used to sometimes I take two different kinds of niacin, so I'm really getting double maybe the daily dose.
You're getting about 200 milligrams.
I guess. No,
I
probably.
mean,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
saying,
probably.
yeah, I got to close the camera here because there are things you can't see. All
Ooh,
right. So
okay.
anyway, all right. Well, um, the reason I'm asking is that if you've been following the show, I'm on a program of trying to trying to reduce my age or lengthen my longevity. And so uh, it turns out that Rick is on part of that program.
Well, niacin
Somebody
also
just threw
reduces
food at me.
cholesterol.
I'm sorry, what?
Niacin also reduces cholesterol.
Yeah, yeah, it's an excellent thing. But anyway, before I had food thrown at me, the three main components of this program are NMN, which is a niacin derivative, transresveratrol, and metformin. And then it turns out if you're taking those things, then you need a few other little things to make those things work. So you can't just take those things, but it's primarily those three. Turns out that without, you know, doing this in an organized way, organized only by his mind, which is, you know, powerful. Rick is doing two of those. He's doing metformin and niacin. So you should be getting some longevity results because of that.
I would
But
hope, but who fucking knows? Um, I would say though that if you're younger than us, and most of the people who watch this thing are, you'd be a schmuck not to um, engage in good health because there's going to be an explosion in medical technology over the next 20 years, which will probably add 20 years to the average American's lifespan. Um, and if you can, like, and healthy years, not like gross fucking your great grandpa years where, you know, that you're all feeble and shit, but we're talking healthy, still able to bone, still looking boneable, um, you know, good years. Um, for people who are
well,
younger than us, which is like when people say that Amy Coney Barrett, Trump's 48-year-old nominee to the Supreme Court, could be on the court for decades. I have to call bullshit because fucking Amy Coney Barrett could be on the court for 80 or 100 years because, you know, RBG lasted till she was 87, which is, you know, 39 years older than ACB.
uh, yeah, yeah, yeah. I will. I will.
Okay, but all right. So, director says we have to talk about Proud Boys. So we'll talk anyway. Um, so, you know, if Amy Coney Barrett is lucky and lives as long as RBG, she could be on the court for 39 more years. But I think she could be on the court for fucking longer than that because by the time, you know, 40 years from now, Amy Barrett is 88, but the average lifespan in 2060 is like 110. So and she's still under that. So she could still serve another, you know, 8 years to 2068. She's 90 or 20
All right. You know what? Enough math,
or
Rick.
anyway,
We
she
get
could
it.
keep
We
going.
get it.
She could. There will eventually be people on the court who are 100 years old and more, and so
Yeah.
she could keep going for a fucking
We
long
got it,
time.
Rick. We got it.
Okay,
Really, we do.
all right.
Um, okay. I'm first. I'm going to comment more on this life extension, and then I'm going to talk about. I'll go back to the Proud Boys, which were mentioned in the debate. Um, there is a way of knowing whether you're aging or not, and by how much, and it's called the Horvath clock. Are you aware of that?
You've told me a little bit about it.
All right. So it's important for people to know this because when you talk about life extension and prolongation, you talk about it as if these things are coming in the future, but we have one right now that is sort of game changing. Steve Horvath was a doctor that found that by measuring certain uh, indicators in the blood, you could tell a person's age exactly. Uh, and they've tested it thousands and thousands of times, and now it's standard that they can tell what your age is. And so once they had that, they started to say, well, look, now that we know what a person's age is there any way of setting back the clock? And so what they would do is they would take people and say, okay, we're going to give you a healthy diet. We're going to change the vitamins you take. We're going to give you a certain kind of exercise. And they found that they could set the clock back, that a person could go in at 49 and with 6 months of proper treatment of their bodies, they could end up at 42. So it's a very exciting thing. And if you're interested in this, and I know you are, you should take the Horvath test. There are things like it which are less expensive because that's a real fancy one. Goes into your DNA and everything. But I did find that I could take this test, and I did find that by adjusting my habits, both with food, nutrition, and exercise, I could set my body back. I could get a little younger. Now, the the reason that the supplements are important, that is resveratrol, NMN, and metformin, is that if they work, you can actually see it with the Horvath clock test. So it's no longer a matter of taking something because you read about it in a magazine or you read one scientific study. Now what we can do is actually test our body before taking the supplement and 6 months later and find out if it really is working. And if not, you can save yourself a lot of money.
Yeah, well, I was more
So,
enthusiastic about shit like this before I got cancer. I'm doing everything right, and it doesn't matter how young my body is. If they caught it super early in me because I'm a fucking hypochondriac with good medical insurance. Um, sorry. Anyway, sorry, I'm getting an echo, which is making me think other. Anyway, um, so yeah, it's nice to be younger, but there's other shit going on too. It's not everything. Fucking, I know my wife's uncle Jerry is like 90 years old, and every fucking thing is wrong with him, but he's fucking 90. He made it, even though there's, like a gazillion reasons why he shouldn't have. Whereas, fucking, who was that guy? Wayne Dyer, when we were kids, was like America's like leading like expert on fitness through jogging. The guy just keeled over from a massive heart attack, the healthiest guy in America, and is dead at like 40 something. So, you can have healthy cells and still be fucked. Um,
all right. Well, the thing is, I don't think we know. You have alluded to me that you got cancer because you think that you took an awful lot of supplements and
no, we
some
don't
of
fucking,
them.
like I got a kidney tumor, and I think only like 40% of kidney tumors have a have a known like major suspect, like you smoke or you've got high blood pressure or whatever, and like half of the cases they don't know why the fuck it happened. Um, so
Well,
it
but
could
you
be.
told me, you told you didn't you tell me that at one point you were taking something that was a little sketchy?
Yeah, but I don't know if that would. And I've quit taking the sketchiest of the shit I was taking. Um, but I don't know that it's not like I was, in an aluminum smelting plant or being a, 2 pack a day smoker. So I don't know if that's what and nobody fucking knows. Um,
All right. Well, this is the last thing I'm going to say, and that is all week long, I've been reading about the secret to longevity food, and I found keeps coming up over and over again, and it's not just Google doing that mechanically. It turns out that the more I read, the more I find that olive oil turns out to be the healthiest thing you can eat. So I'm incorporating a spoonful of olive oil every morning on an empty stomach. It's loaded with resveratrol, and weirdly, the first time I heard about it was I was listening to an interview with a 105-year-old man, and they said, "What did you do?" He said, "I ate a lot of olive oil," and that turns out to be what the head of Harvard study of science, study of aging says is the thing that has the most resveratrol in it.
okay, but
Coincidence? I
yeah,
don't think so.
why wouldn't you drizzle the fucking olive oil on toasty bread to make it delicious?
You
Because fucking
could.
olive oil tastes good.
Yeah, you could. The only reason I'm saying this though is that whenever I tell this to people, they always say, "Yeah, I put that on my salad." Well, do you eat a salad every single day? Do you, I mean, yeah, it is. There is a little in some sauces, but the thing is, I'm incorporating it into a regimen, so I'm
All
doing it
right, but
every
still, it
morning.
should
I'm
be.
not
I mean,
missing it.
well, you should. I mean, it comes from Italy, and you should. I mean, if you're going to do that, you should go with the full Italian regimen: tight pants, um, busty, raven-haired beauties, um, arguing with your mom, a lot of hand gestures, which are good aerobically. Um, an appreciation. Well, you've already got the appreciation of art. All the fucking best art for 300 years came out of Italy.
Yeah, and not only that, but it occurred to me as soon as I got into this that what was the family business of the Godfather and Michael Corleone, the Corleone family? What did they do?
Yeah,
They
the,
they
the,
they imported olive oil.
that's right. In fact, the business model of the entertainment industry, at least before Me Too, was The Godfather. I worked for a guy who had two branches to his production company. One was for guild shows, and the other is for non-guild shows, where you can pay people less because you're not the people working on them aren't part of the writers, producers, directors guild. And the name for his non-guild branch was the name of Don Corleone's olive oil company,
Well,
for what
there
it's
you
worth.
go. Yeah, and I mean it, it's it's true that it was just a front for an evil gangster family, but who knows? Maybe by importing all that olive oil, they'll end up getting to heaven before we do by saving so many lives.
Uh-huh.
So isn't
All
that
right, so
ironic?
I got to put on my glasses because I'm not wearing my contacts to see how long we've been going. My glasses are 45 years old. They're as old as I got them about the time that SNL first came on the air. They're like creepy 1970s Greg Kinnear as Bob Crane glasses.
No,
And
I
because I wear
think
contacts, I've just never felt a need to have decent glasses.
I think you look like a very stylish Hollywood writer dating a movie actress. So
Okay, all
um,
right.
now I wanted to talk about the Proud Boys because when they asked Trump, "Will you denounce white supremacists?" And he said, "Sure, but who are you talking about?" Which I think is a very reasonable question. He says, "Who are you talking about? Because I think the riots and violence is coming from the left, like Antifa," which is, I think, the most reasonable answer you could give. And so somebody threw in there, I don't know if it was Biden or that rat moderator, um, but they said, what about the Proud Boys? And he answered they should stand by and
No, they should
stand
they should
stand
stand down and
stand
stand
down and
by.
stand by. Yeah, I think what he meant by that was stop committing violence, because that's what he ended up saying. Just everyone's got to stop committing violence. They've got to stop these riots. And that's what's happening. So again, it was a reasonable thing to say, but it don't interrupt me as I have a bit more. It turns out that the Proud Boys, I'm aware of the Proud Boys. I don't know a lot of the details, but I used to follow one of their founders. His
Gavin
name was
McInnes?
Gavin McInnes, yeah, who was just a very bright, very conservative, uh, sort of a masculine guy. Uh, and I, it turns out that the Proud Boys are an organization that has apparently 20% minorities, and that the head of the Proud Boys right now is a black Hispanic. So they're not a white supremacist group, and the the as a result, Gavin McInnes is going to sue. Uh, I guess it was the moderator that said the Proud Boys. He's going to sue him for calling him a white supremacist, and he'll win too because they're not white supremacists. What they are is a very conservative group. But it turns out that when Antifa comes out, they come out too, and when Antifa attacks them, they fight back with their fists if necessary. So I think that there's nothing harmful about the Proud Boys. They're just one of these groups that actually, the first time I heard about them involved with violence was when they were holding a meeting where they were just talking about being responsible young men and being conservative and supporting conservative causes. And Antifa came out and tried to attack them physically. And I saw films of it. I actually saw videos of it. And what happened? The Proud Boys beat them up. So I think they're fine. I respect the Proud Boys, and there's no reason to denounce them.
Well, I
And
don't know.
it's typical of Democrat liars. Democrats can't win unless they lie, and so they call Trump a racist, and they call the Proud Boys white supremacists. And I hope to God Americans aren't stupid enough to vote based on lies.
Yeah, but they are. Okay, but the deal is, I don't know anything about the Proud Boys. I assume they're more racist than you say they are.
Well,
My
then you're
joke on
lying too.
what?
Well, then
But my,
you're
my
lying
joke on
too.
Twitter was going to be that I considered myself a Proud Boy until I saw myself naked from the waist down.
Well, you know what? You get an F on the joke, and
Why? It's a joke
not a.
about that I don't look good naked.
I'm just saying. I'm just saying it. I don't believe you're correct on that, and I don't think you should publish that joke on Twitter. But
I
there are
did
things
because
you could.
yeah, you're right. It isn't that good.
Well,
Um,
I'm sorry, Rick.
no, you're right. Um, but anyway, I did a different joke.
What did you say?
Well, Trump told Proud Boys to stand by, and on Twitter I said, well, as a Proud Boy, I need to know what the time frame is. Do I have time to go pee? Do I have time to slap together a sandwich? I'm standing by. It's like, you got to know. That's not very
That's a
helpful.
that's a good one. That
Okay.
was okay. That was okay. So all right. So you knew which was your strongest material, and you went with it.
To
That's
some
good.
extent, I'm pretty bad at judging my own stuff. But you just said, and that brings up another thing that we can talk about maybe before we end, which is that the Democrats can only win by lying. And obviously, as a Democrat, I'm going to disagree, but I'm going to bring up that the Republicans seem to only be able to win through voter suppression. Um, in Texas, Governor Greg Abbott um, has just issued a decree to shut down all but one early voting drop off box per county across Texas. And some Texas counties are as large as 6,000 square miles and have up to 4.7 million people. And some of the places, some of the counties, he shut down 11 out of 12 early voting drop-off places. And people are
Well, could
considering, hmm,
I just a question. Could you give your ballot to the postman?
I don't know. I assume if it's vote by mail and you're voting early enough, yeah. Um, but if you want
Well,
to,
then maybe there's no problem.
it's well, it'll play out across the next few weeks because have already. It's supposed to take effect as of tomorrow, and organizations are already suing to put an injunction on it. Um, but he says it's for increased voting security, and everybody on my side says fucking bullshit. It's to make it harder for people to vote, and I find it particularly um, egregious because Governor Abbott is in a wheelchair. When he was a young man, he was out jogging and a tree fell on him and paralyzed him. And if anybody should know about, mobility issues and the difficulty you might have in getting places, it should be a guy in a fucking wheelchair.
Yeah. Well, I think what they should do then is these people that are in wheelchairs should probably wait for the postman to come to the door, which they will do in the United States 6 days a week, and give their ballot to the mailman. Now, there is something that I find fascinating. I've got something new to say. I've been watching the Veritas, uh, the Project Veritas videos on Omar Ilhan, and it turns out that they do indeed have all the goods on her buying the election. I think since we last spoke, they actually have videotape of people that work for her giving money to people and saying, now you must vote for our candidate. So what is interesting to me is not that Ilhan Omar is buying votes, and there's sort of a double thing going on. Um, to be perfectly technically correct, she's got people paying money to vote for one of her allies, and she's got people that are on the payroll working for her, helping other Democrats that are associated with her. But anyway, it's just a mess, and she's up to her ears in it because it's all people around her, and they're actually being filmed giving money to people to get their vote. And
So,
but what interests me is that I haven't heard one word from the Democrats who can only win by cheating about this is a problem.
so
Not a single Democrat has commented. Ilhan Omar, uh, they asked her about it. First, she laughed it off, and then now she's gone silent.
okay,
And yes,
so bad if true, and you say there's video, and I would recommend, um, you know, visit Project Veritas, um, and look at their videos, and be appalled because they're well done, right?
well, Rick, why attack the
But
messenger? Rick,
what?
why attack the messenger?
Well, I mean, because
Because
all right, so I'm saying like fully inform yourself, like tr information should hold up to scrutiny.
yeah, no, but here's my point.
So, but the deal is
It
like,
went
well,
at
hold on. Let me say a thing. Like Project Veritas has done probably dozens of investigations, right?
Yeah.
And I would guess that now, famously for liberals, we only hear about the ones that are famous for being bullshit.
He's
But
not
I would,
done anything bullshit. I'm sorry,
well,
I'm interrupting you. Please speak.
all right. So I would assume that there is. Um, you made me watch their one on abortion, where he went to a bar with a hidden camera and he got a Planned Parenthood official to say a bunch of shit that was, I think, kind of misconstrued, where we don't need to rehash. Well, maybe we. I don't want to get. But anyway, my side thinks that you guys made a bullshit deal in that you got the the Planned Parenthood lady to talk about the money that changes hands when you sell uh, aborted fetuses for research. That they pay for $70 or something to cover the fee to ship this stuff, refrigerated via UPS or FedEx. And then Veritas said, well, somebody's getting rich off these aborted baby parts. And I thought, bullshit. But anyway, I would suspect that out of the dozens of Project Veritas projects, that they have a range of legitness. Like you'd claim they're all legit, and I'd claim that there's at least some of them are kind of bullshit. Um, but go ahead and watch them, and go ahead and watch this Ilhan Omar one. Now, one thing I haven't watched it, but I can tell you that the day it came out, in a weird coincidence, or the day before, it actually became legal to vote harvest in Michigan, where it was shot. It didn't used to be legal to gather, to like go to an apartment building and go around and say, hey, if you fill out your ballots, I'll take them for you and turn them in, which I believe is what ballot harvesting is. Um, so that was just one kind of slightly deceptive kind of aspect of it. Um, but I gotta say, and you should agree with me that if people are interested, they should go watch the Project Veritas shit.
Got it. Last week or last Sunday, I made one mistake. I have a correction. I said that this was taking place in Michigan. It is Minnesota, Minneapolis,
Okay.
uh, and there's a large Somali community there, and I just wonder why it is that the Democrats aren't making any kind of statement about this because uh, what I find interesting is that today we finally have unimpeachable videotaped proof of voter fraud, and it's not like there's a rumor being spread in a bar or someone calls up a newspaper or someone says something. He actually filmed money changing hands and the words, you will now vote for this Democrat. And he did this, there are several of them like this. And the people that were doing it were on the Ilhan Omar payroll. They are absolutely, no question, working with her. So my point is that it's before you go around saying how Republicans are can't win without voter suppression, you don't have any proof of that. I have proof that the Democrats are buying votes in Minnesota, and I think it's high time that after seeing these videos that Nancy Pelosi and Biden make a statement like, gee, we because what's going to happen now is that if the election is close in Minnesota, you can bet that there is going to be a lawsuit, and the Democrats aren't going to win it now because we're going to have 6 conservatives on the Supreme Court. So if what you want is a free and fair election, you Democrats have to stop buying votes, Rick.
Well, I mean, buying votes has been a a cliche thing across the whole history. If you look at, you could probably find footage in historical movies um, during the 19th century that you could probably find three or four movies that show vote buying via, buying people, getting them drunk on election day. I think that actually led to laws where bars have to close down in some states on election day to stop, you know, treating people to booze in return for their vote. But anyway, um, I don't know. Um, I think right now the battle is for the 8% most oblivious voters um, in the electorate, because 92% of everybody has already made up their minds. Um, and so you're fighting over the 8% who still haven't figured out, whether they like Biden or Trump better, even after, Biden's been in politics for 47 years and we've had 3 and 3/4 years of Trump. Um, and so it's for those people, and it's for, to try to get out some of the 100 million people who didn't vote in the last presidential election, who were, you know, didn't like any of the candidates, so they just said fuck it. Um, so it's, for so subtlety is not going to win the next 4.5 weeks until election day. It's going to be broad brush, stuff like, Trump was really interrupty, and Melania. I don't know. I don't think this will change anybody's minds. That Melania said she hates Christmas decorations and was bitching about it. I mean, that would be crazy if that was the one thing that. But I think it's the big fucking, you know, personality issues maybe in the last month until the election. I don't know.
Listen, I just have a question for you, and then we're going to have to move to another subject I wanted to bring up. Um, did you find that Biden was sort of frail and fragile, or did you think for a minute that that he was a sort of a powerful intellect when you watched?
I was looking for um, command of the facts, and I was looking for verbal pauses. Um, and frankly, in the way it went, um, there weren't that many facts being thrown around. Um, but he seemed okay. Um, I don't think he's in mental decline. Um, I mean, he certainly looks like a guy in his late 70s. Um, I know because I'm having hair transplants myself. I'm a fucking scholar of hair transplants, so I know he's got hair transplants. So does Trump. Trump has, if not transplants, then the ragged remnants of a scalp reduction procedure, which is even more brutal, that he covers over with his triple comb over dealy. So they both had work on their hair. Um, do I think that Biden looks, not as vital as a guy in his 60s? Yeah. Do I think he looks disqualifyingly frail? No.
All right, so my subject now, I'd like to move on.
Hold on, our director. All right. So our director has asked, do we think, um, okay, our director has just asked us, do we think that the reason that that Trump hasn't gone to war is that he's really good at not getting mad under duress? That Biden, called him a clown and told him to shut up at one point, and our director's saying, well, and Trump didn't like freak out about that. And I would say, I'm sorry, director, who remains nameless, but our director, very good director, um, to the point where our director we've all become much more politically informed um, in the 3.5 years we've been doing this. But my opinion is that the director has started to be swayed by um, conservative media. And in asking that, I think, that our director says that Trump was impressive in not getting pissed when Biden called him a clown. And to answer the general question, I think we haven't gone to war under Trump because one of the good things about Trump is that Trump doesn't like war. Um, and so, yeah, do I think it's because he's got this restraint um, that stops him from getting so pissed that he goes to war? I don't think that's the deal. I mean, in terms of restraint, he's cheated on each of his wives. I mean, when it comes to the shit he likes, he doesn't have restraint. He just doesn't like war.
Well, I thought to that um, what was interesting was when Biden started uh, calling him names, Trump just reverted to trying to get Biden to uh, answer a question. And, like, for example, will you pack the court? And Biden was too cowardly to admit whether he would or not, because either way he'd lose votes and frighten the hell out of the American people, which is what he intends to do.
Well, no, that's
Um,
what he said was that if I answer that question, that answer becomes the whole story. And
well,
I don't think I don't think he was wrong in that because Trump's response to, well, you denounce white supremacists, Trump's uh, answer or not answer, that became the whole fucking story. So,
well, no, but Trump at least answered the question. He said, "Sure. By the way, which white supremacists are you talking about? Because I think most of the problems are coming from the left, like Antifa." So he said, "Yes, I denounce white supremacy." He didn't say exactly that. He said, "Sure." And then he put it on Biden, and Biden couldn't denounce Antifa, which I thought was really shocking because if if Trump is expected to denounce Nazism, I don't know why Biden can't denounce Antifa. That's the first thing that Biden avoided. So obviously he's on the side of Antifa that are burning down cities around America. And then secondly, he won't say whether he's going to pack the court. Now that that's a very pathetic answer you give, Rick. I hope you're not your IQ being as high as it is, you don't actually believe that. That becomes the whole issue. I think Biden can answer that question. I mean, it's very important. If somebody's going to destroy the judicial branch of the American government, I kind of need to know that. There are,
he's
in,
smart not to say, but
well, I don't think he's smart not to say. I think he's a rat. I think he's a rat not to say. Because if you're going to do something like that, you better goddamn well tell people. I'm sorry, I've had circus. I'm going to need to know that. That's the first thing. The second thing is, I've been hearing that Democrats want to do 4 or 5 things. Let me just list them real quick. One, they're going to pack the court. Two, they're going to admit uh,
DC.
DC and Puerto Rico. They're going to make states out of them so that there will be a Democrat majority forever. Three, they're going to get rid of the Electoral College so that they only have to campaign in New York, California, and Chicago, and they win by sheer numbers. And there's a fourth one, but oh, they're going to make elections basically whenever you want. I mean, there will not be an election day. It'll always be election day plus a few weeks for the Democrats to find some votes and win. So I'm sorry, but I've never experienced, for our younger viewers, when I was a kid, we had an electoral college, 50 states, 9 jurists, and election day was one day. Now, the Democrats clearly see political advantage in throwing out traditions that are hundreds of years old. And I don't want to live in a country that's a one party state, even if the Democrats think they can gain power by doing this. Number one, it's wrong in principle. But number two, uh, why do you want that, Rick?
All
Why are
right.
you
So,
going
well,
along
hold
with
on. So, all right. So, one answer is if you don't want to live in a one-party state, and I don't either, the Republicans shouldn't have become so fucking shitty over the past 20 years, with them getting especially shitty in the past 3, 4 years. The Republicans used to be an upstanding fucking party. I could name you, 4 or 5 fucking great Republican presidents. I mean, fucking Lincoln shouldn't count. He's obviously great, but Lincoln was 160 years ago. But more recently, fucking Eisenhower, George H.W. Bush, decent. Uh, Nixon did a lot of bad shit, but there was a lot of there. I kind of like Nixon because he was socially needy, like I am. But like, there's a lot of shit to like about a lot of Republican um, presidents, and then just lately, and other great Republican figures. Um, uh, but anyway, about the 4 things. The packing the court, I don't think it's going to happen in that um, I think it would be so divisive and so weird that I don't think the Democrats, who tend to be pretty timid, they kind of stand back and they're waiting for the Republicans to set themselves on fire. Um, Playing some kind of long chicken shit game. So I don't think packing the court's going to happen. DC and Puerto Rico, I don't know what the laws are about how that happens and what kind of majorities you need in the House and Senate. But that seems like a possibility. I mean, Puerto Rico has millions of people. Um, DC is a harder argument, I think, to make in that DC is only 70 square miles and only has 700,000 people, which is more than some very small states like Wyoming have. Um, but fucking Puerto Rico, I mean, it's a big ass place with, I don't know, 3 million, 6 million people, as big as a lot of fucking states. So, yeah, if Puerto Rico wants to become a state, then that seems reasonable. Um, uh, Doing something about election day to like making it a national holiday or moving it to the weekend to make it easier for people to vote. As a Democrat, um, I'm in favor of as many people voting as possible because demographically, um, when everybody who's entitled to vote votes, Democrats win because there are more people who lean Democrat than Republican. And your final point, which is the Electoral College, you can't fucking straight up abolish the Electoral College in that would take a constitutional amendment, and that would never happen because that would mean smaller Republican states like the whole South um, giving up power. That won't happen. The other thing that could happen would be a pact among states to assign electors proportional to the split of the vote in each individual state. Um, like California, if a if a Democrat wins by 10 votes, you know, they get all, I don't know, what, 40 electoral votes?
55.
50, all right, 55, a shitload of electoral votes, more than 10% of the nation's electoral votes, even if the vote is, 50.1% to 49.9%. Under a proportionate division, if the vote is close to 50-50, then the electoral votes would, one side would get 28 and the other side would get 27. If enough states to agree to that, then you'd get, proportionate voting in the states instead of winner take all. That could happen. And to me, that seems reasonable.
All right. I'm going to bring up one more thing, and that is, as you guys all know, I'm a big fan of theme parks. And this week, uh, Disneyland, the mayors of Anaheim and Buena Park, and all of the theme parks in Southern California made a public plea for the governor to uh, let them open up. Now, you may think, I talked with one Democrat who said, well, the governor's got more important things to do. Well, actually, it turns out that there are 250,000 people who are out of work because of what, because of Newsom's California governor's uh, kind of feckless and capricious methods. Um, he's opened up some businesses and not others with virtually no science whatsoever. It's just a matter of his whims. And they waited a week. The governor's spokesman lied and said, "Yeah, we're in big talks." And the theme park association said, "No, there've never been any talks. The Democrats are just lying." And then finally, Disney just gave up and said, "Okay, we're going to fire we're going to lay
28,000
off,
people?
yeah, 28,000 people, almost our entire staff." And so it's basically a skeleton crew at Disney in Southern California. And that made no impression on the governor. His, I assume he's enjoying his life, and um, they've already proven scientifically that opening the theme parks in Florida haven't affected the numbers. They haven't traced anything back to the theme parks. If anything, because you need a temperature check to get into a theme park, and you need to wear a mask, they actually are fairly safe as far as places you can go. But no, no, they don't. The Democrats are convinced, and this is the first time I've heard people say, people that were neutral, people that were not Republicans or Democrats, or didn't make it a political issue, are finally saying, it looks like the uh, the goal of the governor of California is simply cause a depression. Like, it's one of those things that he wants people to be miserable until they vote Democrat, until they vote for Biden. I've been saying all along that, well, it's obvious that the Democrats are trying to use the Wuhan virus to create panic in this country and chaos and misery. And this is part of it because people are saying there is no science behind this anymore. Now, this isn't just Disneyland. Understand, it's 250,000 people that are working in and around Disneyland. It's the whole cities of Anaheim and Buena Park. There are hundreds of thousands of people. But Newsom doesn't care. And it's the old saying of, the beatings will continue until morale improves.
Yeah,
So
well,
and somebody, people have said to me, Lance, how can the Democrats be that ruthless? And my argument is, look, the Lenin didn't care about killing 20 million people in Russia to take power. So for Democrats to put people out of work so they can get rid of Trump and gain seize power, that's nothing to a true socialist. Also, one last thing,
Well, hold
Newsom
on. I get to
signed.
respond to that fucking shit.
Okay,
All right. So I agree that you could fucking do something with the amusement parks. 25% capacity, maybe certain rides. I mean, we've talked about this before. So not if Newsom hasn't been talking with them, then that's a little bit bullshit or a lot bullshit. I mean, we know, but you guys, the Republicans, are in charge of the national response, and we know what's going to fucking happen. We lose about 900 people a day across America to being dead from the fucking COVID
the
until we
average
get.
is 750 now.
What's that?
The average now is down to 700.
Okay, all right. But still, we're at 212,000. We'll be at close by election day. We'll be at 235, 240. Um, then there's another 77 days of Trump if Trump loses, or another fucking 1,500 days of Trump if he wins. Um, but assuming he loses, then um, I assume when Biden comes in, there's a national mask mandate. I don't. Biden said he's not going to close down the country unless scientists recommend it, and I don't think scientists are going to recommend it. I think though that making everybody fucking wear masks, and then we're going to, if everybody actually did wear masks, the national, which I don't even know if that's possible in this country now because masks are such a politically controversial thing. But if you actually made everybody wear masks right for like a month, it would, I think it would knock down the number of new cases by at least 85%. But anyway, that shit happens. Eventually, we get a vaccine. The first vaccine might suck. It might only have, basically, we're going to limp along. We're going to figure out new ways to knock down, or old ways to knock down the shit and to have America, the business of America resume. And, um, we'll, I,
So let me, I think you're done. So
yeah, I think
I just
so.
I just wanted to say that was one more fascinating thing that came out of the debate, which since this is a debate show, I should point out, and that is that Trump said that he's not going to lock this country down. Uh, if if there was nothing, and he said Biden is on record as saying that he will lock down the country if the scientists tell him it's a good idea. Uh,
Yes.
Trump has said that he will not lock down the country, period. So just on the basis of that, I would vote for Trump. Any candidate that tells me that if given the right information, he'll lock this country down, has lost my vote because that's first of all, there's no science behind it, but secondly, he's a dictator. I'm not going to vote for somebody that would cause this country a depression so deep that we'd never get out of it. Right, the 8 months that we've just gone through almost destroyed our economy. Uh, we're bouncing back, but uh, if we go through this again, then just assume that China is going to be the world power, and we will be the stooges of China. That'll
Yeah.
be it because
Okay.
they're not going to lock down. They're not going to destroy their economy, and they will tell us what to do from now on.
Yeah. Well, we're not going to. Some No. Our director asked, do we think that Trump's on zinc and hydroxy? No. I think he quit taking it after a while. Maybe he was on it for a few weeks when he was talking about it a lot. Oh, do you think they started him on it? No,
Let
because
me just
I don't think. I think fucking now maybe. but I would think that, I mean, there's a chance in that Trump is, he's consulting with his doctors, and the doctors say, look, we think that these things are the most effective things. And then Trump says, well, what about zinc and hydroxychloroquine? And they're like, yeah, we don't think it's as effective as this stuff for the stage you're at. Or they say, yeah, maybe for this stage it might be good. So there's a chance, but I don't know. But I don't. Yeah, I guess my answer is I don't know. It's possible. But there was a time to lock down the country, and that time was in
Well,
March when
wait,
we.
wait. Can I respond to
Yeah, yeah.
the question, the director's question? So we know that Trump was on a 14-day period when he was taking it as a prophylactic. So if the question is, has Trump put his own hands in the drug hydroxychloroquine? Yes, he has. He has done. He's on record as having done that. Um, Maybe the fact that he was being tested every day. I mean, you don't need to do it forever. At least he felt that he was being tested every day, and the people around him were being tested every day. So he went off it. But I would assume that he's open to whatever medication is most effective at this point. And if he is on hydroxychloroquine and zinc, they can actually test the viral load to see if the virus's numbers are increasing or decreasing. So if he tries it and the viral load goes up, then yeah, I guess he'd better get off it. But if it appears to be controlling it, then he'll stay on it.
Mhm.
But I don't think he has any reason not to take it. Now, you were going to say that the time to lock down was in March, but we
But no, let
weren't,
me say,
we
because
were bad
hold on, because
children. We weren't good enough.
I've got a good logic. I was kind of meandering, but I've got a good logical point now.
Oh,
In
okay.
March, we didn't know shit about how it was transmitted. Like, remember when we were washing our groceries, and that was we thought it might be able to live on surfaces for longer than it actually. So when we didn't know shit, but we did know that if it goes from person to person, and if you limit contact among people, then regardless of exactly how it's transmitted, if we make everybody stay home, then obviously it's not going to go anywhere. But now it's fucking 9 months, or I'm sorry, 6, 7 months later, and we know a lot of shit. It's transmitted from people breathing and the particles moving through the air, and we know how to knock that down a lot with masks and plexi shields if you fucking have to. We know how to fucking conduct ourselves. There's no reason for a nationwide lockdown. um, there is a reason for a nationwide mask mandate if you can actually get people to do it. um, and I assume that Biden will try the national mask mandate. um, and I also assume that it will be people will defy Biden in big swaths of the country, and it'll be effective in some parts of the country, and then other parts of the country where people are saying "fuck you" to that, it'll be less effective, and we'll still be waiting for the fucking vaccine.
Yeah, that's
That's.
something I've noticed something about you as a debater
Uh-huh.
and as a thinker, as a matter of fact. A lot of the time when we're debating something, almost every week now, your argument will be, well, that's never going to happen. Like, like, um, like, well, Biden says he'll lock it down, lock the country down, but that's never going to happen. He won't. I don't think he'll do that. And then, and then when we say, well, is he going to pack the court with Supreme Court justices on the Supreme Court? Your argument is, well, he would never do that. And there were other issues, the abortion issue. Like, yeah, I know it's legal to abort a baby in the third trimester, but nobody ever does unless it's a brainless baby. So your argument always seems to be based on you've got this very, very high opinion of Democrats and that they would never really do what they say they're going to do. And
Well, look at
my
their
argument,
record. Look
no,
at their
no, no,
record.
don't interrupt me. Don't interrupt
Okay.
me.
All right.
Don't interrupt me. Uh, my argument, and I'm trying to teach you something. My argument is you should go with what they say they're going to do. You can't, when you don't know what someone is going to do, go with what they say they're going to do. So,
Yeah.
so it's not an effective argument to say, well, he would never pack the court. He's not saying whether he will, but I know he never would.
Yeah, but
That's
you know
not a
what?
good argument, Rick.
At least,
Unless,
okay,
unless
so
I mean,
maybe,
if you convince yourself, it's kind of sad. You shouldn't do that. If Trump said, "I will never pack the court," he thinks it's wrong. Biden, Biden, Biden is evasive, like a little rat, and I don't think you should delude yourself, Rick. If you
no, I'm
don't
okay with
want the court
deluding myself.
packed,
I'm okay with fucking deluding myself. And if I think that, well, I believe what I believe. And fucking, at least acknowledging that some shit just isn't going to happen, like, it avoids some cut, like it avoids a lot of slippery slope bullshit. Like, you guys have decided that if Biden's elected, then the country turns into a socialist hellhole. And Biden's given no evidence of, you guys have two arguments. One, this guy's been in government for nearly 50 years and hasn't accomplished shit. And two, he's a crazy radical that if he gets elected, then we turn into fucking, Romania in the 60s. Um, and you guys had try to have it both ways, but really, like, fucking, I hate, I mean, what I believe is that fucking American politics fucking wobbles along shittily for the near and mid future, and the shit that turns America and the world into a, an unrecognizable kaleidoscopic uh, dystopia slash utopia slash hellhole slash paradise is fucking technology. That's where all the weirdness is going to come from. All the extremity, all the extreme outcomes are going to come from fucking tech, not from a bunch of fucking old men in DC.
yeah, then you really shouldn't be doing this show. At least we shouldn't be talking about
Yeah.
politics because it doesn't seem to mean much to you.
Well, no, I
Anyway,
want fucking
well,
normal politics to let the future unfold without a bunch of retards giving our country away to yahoos and the Chinese. I want a scientifically, I want a
I'm
country
just
that's
wait, I'm
science
just amazed.
positive.
So you're telling me that the guy whose son just got over $1 billion of investments from the Chinese, Hunter Biden, you're saying that you don't want the Chinese to have influence in our country, even though Hunter Biden just got over $1 billion for his investments?
Yeah, fine,
For his,
fucking Hunter Biden. But no,
well, what did
if we
Hunter
turn
Biden?
into a country full of anti-science dumb fuckers, then yeah, that's how China wins. If we remain the place that people come to do the best science and best industry, best engineering, if we're the place you want to come when you are the brightest motherfucker in your fucking town and wherever the world you are, then that's how we mostly win. But
The
no, Space Force is a fucking idiot's idea of the future. Yeah, the future is fucking fucking with
repeat the director's
AI. The
question.
Mars is fine, but that the future isn't us moving to Mars. Mars, that shit is that's not where the future is. We thought it was the future in the 60s when we were doing the Apollo missions, but it's become apparent in the next 50 years from the 70s on that the future is fucking AI, is miniature technology, is medical technology. is big data processing, is information processing, and artificial thought, and fucking sure, send people to Mars. It's exciting, but it's not the fucking future.
I just wanted to change the subject a little bit. I remember during the debate that um, Trump had mentioned to Biden that his son's company, which there are two co-founders, and that technically his co-founder received $3.5 million from the mayor of Moscow's wife. Uh, and Trump said to Biden, "What did your son do to get that $3.5 million from the Russians?" And Biden couldn't answer the question. And he denied the whole thing. It turns out that even Hunter Biden has admitted that they did get that money, and that they have received over $1 billion to invest from Chinese companies. Why is it that? Um, what is your response? I think it's very peculiar
I've got a
that
couple responses.
all Biden said was, no, no, that's not true.
All
It's
right, so
been
it
debunked.
probably is true that because Hunter Biden runs a hedge fund, and probably to curry favor with Hunter Biden, the Chinese probably said, "Yeah, we'll give you $1 billion to invest." Um,
Yeah, well,
I mean,
but I mean, don't you think Biden's answer should have been as realistic as what you just said?
I don't
Instead of
know.
saying,
Fucking,
well, but what Biden did was he just lied. He just said, no, that didn't. He just said that's been debunked. It's totally untrue.
okay, so maybe
Well,
it has been debunked.
it
I
has.
don't know,
No,
but
no, it
I
has
got.
not
I
been.
have a couple. We've been
But
going
but
very
Biden
long.
just
So
lied.
okay, so fine. Maybe you lied. That I'll read up on fucking Hunter Biden's company, and I'll read up on. I'll look at the Veritas shit out of Minnesota. But we've gone way too long.
All
We
right,
already.
all right.
All right.
Okay,
So
we can sign off.
all right. Thank you, everybody. See you on Sunday or Monday. Lance
Tell him to
versus
give us
Rick
money.
at gmail.com if you want to send us a shiny quarter.
Bye. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.